Pakistan's forgotten citizens. This editorial discusses the plight of impoverished and displaced Pakistanis. About 22% of Pakistanis live below the national poverty line, with estimates jumping to 40% if we consider the global lower middle income poverty rate. Poverty line means the minimum income needed to avoid poverty. Lower middle income is a common economic term. This sentence means a significant share of Pakistanis live in poverty. Similarly, 40% of Pakistan suffers from multidimensional poverty. Multidimensional poverty means deprivation in multiple basic needs: health, education, living standards. This sentence means many Pakistanis face widespread deprivations. There are about 25 million out-of-school children, while 40% of children under the age of 5 in Pakistan are stunted. Well, out of school means not enrolled in formal education. Stunted means having impaired growth. This sentence means millions of children lack education and proper development. In the smaller provinces, these numbers are far worse. This sentence means the situation is even more severe in less developed regions. This article's title could be referring to any of these millions of impoverished Pakistanis, and as a nation, we ought to be doing better to help them. This sentence means the title highlights the suffering of millions who need better support. However, while these people suffer because of the state's neglect, there is another group, the internally displaced persons belonging to the merged areas, whose suffering is a direct consequence of state action. Internally displaced persons, IDPs, are people forced to leave their homes due to conflict or disaster, but remain within the country. This sentence means government neglect and actions have directly displaced many. The IDP's continuing struggle for their rights also highlights the state's indifference. Indifference means lack of concern. This sentence means the persistent hardship of IDPs shows government apathy. At the height of the conflict in 2014, about 2 million people had been displaced from their homes in Fatah, now the merged areas. Displaced means forced to leave their homes. Fatah refers to the former federally administered tribal areas. This sentence means 2 million people were forced out during 2014. Over the course of the last 2 decades, people from all 7 districts of the merged areas have been IDPs at some point. In total, as per official government data, about 4.5 million people from the merged areas became IDPs. Given the 2017 Pakistan census numbers of 5 million people in the merged areas, that's 90% of the total population of the area. This sentence means nearly the entire population of the merged areas has been displaced at some time. While some tribes were only temporarily displaced, there are those that, after more than a decade since being forced to leave their homes, are still unable to go back. Temporarily means for a short period. This sentence means many remain displaced for over 10 years. Although official records show that most of these IDPs have now returned to their areas, with about 18,000 families still displaced, the reality on the ground is different. This sentence means official figures mask ongoing struggles of displaced families. There are broadly 3 reasons why the repatriation hasn't happened. Repatriation means the process of returning to one's home. This sentence means 3 main factors prevent IDPs from returning. First, IDPs who settled in more developed parts of Pakistan became accustomed to better basic services, like more than 4 hours of electricity a day, running tap water, access to functioning health and education systems, and job opportunities. With such basic necessities still very much a luxury in the merged areas, some have decided not to return. Accustomed means familiar with. This sentence means IDPs prefer areas with reliable services and do not want to return to deprived regions. Second, there are areas where in official government documents the return process has taken place and IDPs are free to go back. But in actuality, these areas are still cordoned off by checkposts and there is very restricted movement allowed, if at all. Cordoned off means sealed off. This sentence means some areas, though officially open, remain inaccessible. Places like Mamozai and Araksai and many villages of the Masood Belt in South Waziristan fall in this category. This sentence means specific regions remain under strict control, hindering return. However, the majority of IDPs not returning to their homes fall into a third category, those who are unable to return due to the massive level of destruction. Massive means extensive. This sentence means widespread destruction prevents most from going back. As part of the anti-militancy drive, there were large parts of the merged areas where homes, businesses, bazaars, schools, hospitals, the road network, electricity, and drinking water supply infrastructure were completely destroyed. Anti-militancy drive means government efforts to combat militants. This sentence means extensive destruction occurred during anti-militancy operations. This includes most parts of the South and North Waziristan districts, the Upper Tehsil of District Orakzai, Tira region in District Khyber, and large parts of the Central Tehsil in District Kurum. Tehsil means an administrative division. This sentence means many regions have been devastated. When the tribes here were made to leave their homes, they did so with two promises made to them. This sentence means the displaced were promised temporary relocation and eventual rebuilding. First, that this would be a temporary dislocation during which they would be looked after as IDPs by the government. Dislocation means being forced to leave. This sentence means the government promised to care for them during displacement. Second, that their hometowns would be cleared of all militants and rebuilt so that they could return home to continue living their lives safely. Cleared means purged of threats. Rebuilt means reconstructed. This sentence means the government promised to make their homes safe for return. Tom, the IDP's continuing struggle for their rights also highlights the state's indifference. This sentence means ongoing hardships reveal government apathy. In actuality, as IDPs, there has been very little support from the state, except for perhaps the ultra-poor who were forced to live in refugee camps. Refugee camps mean temporary shelters for displaced persons. This sentence means most IDPs receive minimal assistance. As for the length of stay, for all practical purposes, many still live as IDPs. For all practical purposes means in reality. This sentence means many continue to live in displacement indefinitely. The rehabilitation and reconstruction process has been a story of even more despair. Rehabilitation means restoration of normalcy. This sentence means rebuilding efforts have been deeply disappointing. The government decided on a meager rate of Rs 400,000 for fully demolished homes and Rs 160,000 for partially damaged homes. Meager means insufficient. This sentence means compensation for destroyed homes is very low. Contrary to popular belief based on experiences in villages in the rest of Pakistan, homes in the tribal areas are more like compounds, with living spaces for multiple families and thick walls for protection rather than simple mud houses. Compounds means complexes with multiple dwellings. This sentence means tribal homes are larger and more fortified than typical mud houses. The amount allocated for reconstruction for these homes by the government isn't even enough to clear out the debris, let alone reconstruct those homes. Debris means rubble. This sentence means reconstruction funds are grossly inadequate. Even so, many people are still waiting to receive their compensation money. Their wait might have become indefinite with the government closing the program in the 2022-2023 budget. Indefinite means without a fixed end. This sentence means compensation payments remain pending, possibly forever. Although the reconstruction of schools, hospitals, and road infrastructure began with good speed, similar to housing compensation, funding for that has also dried up since 2022, with many buildings still lying in ruins. Dried up means ceased. This sentence means public infrastructure rebuilding has stalled due to funding cuts. An amount of Rs 17 billion was allocated in the budget under the heading of TDP, Temporarily Displaced Persons Support, which was used for rehabilitation and reconstruction. But this line has been removed from the budget. TDP stands for Temporarily Displaced Persons. This sentence means government funding for IDP support has been cut. It has been estimated that an additional Rs 60 billion will be needed to complete the rehabilitation and reconstruction process. This sentence means much more money is required for full rebuilding. For markets and businesses, except for a couple of towns in North Waziristan, It appears that residents of no other district have been compensated for the businesses and markets they lost. This sentence means most business losses have not been financially addressed. Humanitarian motivations should be enough for mainstream Pakistan to care about the continued plight of IDPs, but that has seldom been enough for governments to take action. Humanitarian motivations mean concern for human welfare. This sentence means compassion alone hasn't prompted government intervention. So let me make a more egocentric argument for why the government and mainstream Pakistanis should be concerned. Egocentric means self-centered. This sentence means the writer argues from national self-interest. Militancy is again on the rise. This sentence means militant activity is increasing. With the deep sense of betrayal felt by merged area locals toward the state, they may not be willing to relocate this time, given their previous experiences. Betrayal means feeling deceived. This sentence means locals' mistrust prevents their return. This will make fighting militancy a lot costlier and riskier. This sentence means countering militants will become more expensive and dangerous. The reality is, militant groups have proven themselves adept at exploiting local frustrations and government neglect to entrench themselves in these areas. Entrench means to establish firmly. This sentence means militants capitalize on local anger and neglect to gain power. If militants are able to make inroads in this region, it will spread to the rest of Pakistan, like the last time. Inroads means advances. This sentence means unchecked militancy may expand nationwide. The writer is a development practitioner and a former parliamentarian. naeemsadiq@gmail.com, published in Dawn, March 4, 2025.